Hey guys, Olaf here from LSE in Central Florida. Today I'm working on my Magnum, and one of the projects which I have going on since longer but never got around it is actually replacing my steering wheel with one which has wood in it. So this video is educational, so stay tuned and watch it. One of the things, make sure that because you're working on your airbags, be very careful. That stuff can pretty much explode on you. So make sure that you disconnect your battery, wait for 5-10 minutes before you start doing anything with it.
Okay, so here I'm gonna show you guys actually the steering wheel, which I bought over eBay. It came from a Chrysler 300. One big thing I have to say about the battery disconnect, it's not 10 or 5 to 10 minutes, it's actually 30 minutes. If you start working too early on it, you actually risk that with an electric shortage you can produce when you're messing with the wires, that you actually trigger the airbag, and the airbags will pretty much explode directly in front of you into your face while you're actually trying to remove it. So make sure that you actually be very, very careful on that and take your time on that. So best is just disconnect the battery, let it sit for 30 minutes before you start doing any work. That work is pretty dangerous. So anyhow, now I unboxed the steering wheel and just going over it, start to clean it a little bit. There's just a little bit smudge on it. Nothing too serious. Therefore, it's a used one. It's not brand new, and it's pretty much ready to bolt on. The thing you need to know is, okay, this one is with wood and black leather, where the original one, which I have in there, is just a standard OEM fake plastic, rubber, vinyl, whatever you want to call it, steering wheel. This one actually has a knuckle indentation, as you can see in the back. And right now I'm pointing out where actually your screws are to hold on to your airbag. So those are 10 millimeter. So the two holes you see on the steering wheel, which I just had pointed out, those are 10 millimeter. So you need a long socket. I tried to do it first with a short socket. That doesn't work. So you actually have to use a long socket. And with a long socket, you can reach it. Make sure that those are only hand tight, screwed in, especially when you tighten them back up. So there's no Loctite, no nothing in it. Those are aluminum screws, and the thread itself is also aluminum, so it's very soft material. So make sure that you do not apply too much pressure to it. So right now you can see that I was messing around with trying to figure out which socket it is. I thought I grabbed the 10 millimeter, but I actually grabbed the 13 millimeter. So I started realizing that fairly quick and started looking for my 10 millimeter. First I was trying to do it with the short 10 millimeter, but at the end it only worked with a long 10 millimeter. So that's where you can see me right now, just trying to figure out if it works, but it's just too short. So when you use a long with a small neck 10 millimeter, make sure that you loosen up your steering column. There's a handle right underneath which you can use to actually pull the steering wheel towards you. There you can see it. Just lock it in position so that the steering wheel is not moving on you while you're trying to untie it. And as you can see, I only use pretty much my wrist as a momentum to break that screw loose. So there's no lock tied or thread locker in it. Where in the center column, which really holds your steering wheel onto the steering shaft, there is thread locker, and it's blue. I didn't have any blue on hand, so I used a very tiny bit of red. But you'll see it in a moment. So now I'm taking apart the unit, which is including the horn and also your airbag. There are two connectors in the center which are just squeezed together, and you can slide them right out. The one on top, which is actually for your horn itself, use a paper clip and just lift up that little safety pin, which is actually on the clip itself. And then once you can lift it up, you can actually disconnect it fairly easy. But yeah, now you can watch me trying to figure out from the wiring what goes where, is there anything in addition which I'm missing, and just by looking at it, there is none. So there's only the 4 wires for your airbags, which are the 2 connectors, and there's one additional wire which has 3 wires in, which is controlling all your hand controls and your horn as well. So now I'm using a 10 millimeter Allen wrench, pretty much, and I use a C channel to get the leverage to break loose the thread lock in there, and it's a 10 millimeter and it's a blue thread lock. If you do not have blue thread lock and you only have red, you can put a dab of red on it. Don't put too much on it. It just has to hold in place so that the screw is not wiggling itself loose, but nothing more. So right now I'm taking the camera in. I'm sorry for it being a little shaky, but I have it still on the tripod. So now you can see that center pin on top, and now you see the groove. Those have to be perfectly aligned. And the good thing with Chrysler is that, especially in the Magnum and the Chrysler 300, that indentation is unique. I've not seen it on too many other manufacturers doing it as a central point. But now you see the hole there on the right side. That's where you feed actually your cable through, and I reposition the camera so that you can see actually a little bit better what I'm doing when I'm assembling it. So you're clipping your first clip in, and then you have the 3 hanging there, which are the 2 for your airbags and the 1 for your horn, which is the one on top there. And so you just hand push it in and get some thread lock, and don't apply too much to it, just tiny dab to it. That's good enough, especially if it's red. So my red was a little bit dried up in the tip, so I had to actually break the tip off because it was there you see it. And so I just applied a very tiny bit and started running a little bit too much, so I wiped off a little bit of the excess because I only really need a tiny bit, just keep it in place. So there's some red left in the grooves, but that's pretty much it. And then you just hand tighten it all the way in, and then I use a C channel with a hole in, and so the ratchet is just staying there, and so the Allen wrench is just staying there, and I can use the additional leverage. That has to be cranked down pretty good, but not too hard because it's also just pure aluminum. There's nothing more to it, so don't over tighten it too much. Now I'm assembling, actually trying to take a look at how hard it is to take off the horn part to actually remove the airbag physically, but it's a little bit of a hassle, so I just stopped doing it right there and went from there on and just clip the 2 in. Make sure when you clip them in, you clip the right ones into the port 1 and port 2. They're color coded, so you have a black which goes into, I believe it's 1, and then the beige goes, or brown, goes into the number 2, and then you assemble the horn clip in, and that's pretty much it. Then you slide it in and make sure that everything lines up perfectly, so none of the plastic being bent or anything like that. It should just slide in. Once it's slid in, you take your 2 bolts, which are aluminum bolts, 10 millimeter, and just hand tighten them pretty much in. There's really nothing which requires a lot of force to it, because all they do is really holding your airbag in place. And so when your airbag goes off, it actually goes off towards you, and so the screws only are there to hold that whole unit in place. So there's no real reason for overdoing it. So I just normally just hand tight, that's it. So now I'm reconnecting the battery, and during this whole process, make sure that the battery is disconnected, and make sure that you disconnect the battery 30 minutes or more even prior doing this job. Otherwise, you have electricity still in that airbag cartridge, which can happen that it actually goes off on you. So make sure there's no electricity. So now you can see there's the steering wheel all in place. Just making sure that there's no error code coming on. So I use one of my scanner tools after I just pretty much cranked the engine without fully starting it. So I just put it into ignition state. I noticed that I still have my engine light on, which is from a prior job I did on the EGR where I replaced the EGR sensor. And for some odd reason, it looks like it's burned actually into the memory. So I can't even remove it easily, especially after the Innova scanner, which I'm showing you guys there. And so the Innova 3100G really can only read and can only clear the easy stuff. So it's good for basic stuff. I bought it, I think, on AutoZone, Amazon, somewhere. I have been using it for a couple of years, and I'm very happy. So now you see there's the error code P0403, and there's the second one, and it actually comes both twice because one is in the freeze memory and the other one is just in the normal regular memory. So after me cleaning it, I no longer have 4 errors. I only have 2, as you can see in the top right in the display. So I tried to erase it again and didn't happen, so it's permanently frozen in. So I have to get some better tool to actually wipe that clean. I might even talk with Steven on that. So yeah, thanks again. Thanks for watching. Please rate and subscribe. Leave comments below if you like to know more or if you like this video and me doing more videos. Thanks again, guys. Have a good day.